Peace.
The rest of the wide receiver group is underwhelming. Kincaid's had some moments. They need a playmaker in the worst way this offseason. I know they keep trying to get it done or pick these guys off. Maybe Keon Coleman will be that guy. Maybe Josh Palmer will be that guy. It's not working. They haven't replaced Stephon Diggs, and it shows. And I think Josh Allen could use some help. So Buffalo Bills in the offseason, free agency, NFL draft, get yourself a big playmaker.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Notre Dame playing very well, in a position to crack the top 12. Now they have to take care of business.
Here's what I want from and again, we're going to go over who we think is actually going to make the playoffs here a little bit later in the show. But understand this, Joe. I don't want any ACC in there. I don't want any Big 12 in there. Just give me the Big 10 and the SEC. And Mike, quite frankly, if you just gave me Ohio State, Indiana, and the rest of the SEC, boom, boom.
Nah.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Let me ask you this. If they brought in Belichick, you don't think that... Yeah.
Oh, of North Carolina?
Yeah, they're playing much better now.
I wouldn't let him coach my kids. I don't even have any.
I tell you what, they would be more disciplined than what they are now.
No, they wouldn't. They'd be lifeless.
Yes, they would.
They'd be lifeless.
Yes, Brian Dable is a gutless head coach.
Bill Belichick came off a bye against
gutless
Clemson.
head coach.
3 plays in, they gave him 150 yards.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
But here we go. This is like, Pet Sematary. You guys don't remember this movie from the 1980s. But look, goodbye Tom Brady, I guess, wants to keep the generation alive. Couldn't he just have had this dog breed and just take the puppy of some kind? I don't know. But hey, Tom Brady does different things. Maybe this is just a signal for cloning in the future for humans. I'm not really sure here.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
What took the Mavs so long to fire Nico? Plus another WNBA star joins Project B. Front Office Sports Today starts now. Hi everyone, welcome to Front Office Sports Today. Your look inside the stories that are shaping the business and culture of sports. I'm Baker Machado in New York, and this podcast is brought to you by Invesco QQQ. Changing the game has always been our game. You can access NASDAQ 100 companies in one ETF, Invesco Distributors, Inc. Well, first up on the show, the continuing fallout in Dallas after the Mavericks fired GM Nico Harrison. That's in today's main event. For almost 10 months, Mavs fans have demanded Nico Harrison be ousted. This after trading star Luka Doncic to the Lakers, with owner Patrick Dumont writing a letter to fans after Harrison's dismissal, saying it was critical to moving the franchise forward in a positive direction. Yet many are asking what took so long and why now? Let's bring in Front Office Sports reporter Alex Schiffer. So, Alex, why did it take the Mavericks so long?
Yeah, I think he had done enough, having gotten into the finals the year before, to maybe get a little bit of time to see if his plan could work. And Anthony Davis getting hurt in the first half of his first game, I think, began what ultimately got us to yesterday. And maybe winning the draft lottery and getting Cooper Flagg in May bought him a little bit of time before he got the axe ultimately. But I think that their slow start, both Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving being hurt, and the fire Nico chance becoming a constant theme for the arena basically made it just too much to overcome, and he was just the scab that had to finally heal one way or the other.
Now, the owner of the Mavericks, Patrick Dumont, who's also the chairman of the organization, has sort of been a little bit on an apology tour with fans to sort of bring them back into the fold. There's this infamous photo that was going viral on social media of him sitting next to a Mavericks fan in a Luka Lakers jersey. And that fan did an interview with The Athletic, and he said, Patrick said he feels horrible for the trade and wants to make it up to us. So how do you sort of see Patrick Dumont try to winning back fans here? And is he really to blame for all of this?
Yeah, so quick shout out for that Athletic story. That was my college editor, Christian Clark, who found that kid.
Oh, wow.
Shout out, Christian.
Wow.
I think, when this trade was first made, there was talks about how the Dumont family comes from casinos and gambling, and they didn't know a lot about basketball ops. And I think that they did not realize what they were signing off on in the moment as much as maybe Nico Harrison did. And as time has gone on and Luka Doncic looks really good for the Lakers and also slimmed down a bit, maybe Patrick Dumont read that Men's Health story or whatever that Luka did. And I think that it's been a twofold thing of the Mavericks can't get healthy, and this is a limited runway, and I think that the backlash and the realization has kind of hit Patrick Dumont over time, but he's still signed off on this, and he's ultimately going to be the co-signer to this, whether he likes it or not.
I'm glad you bring that up because, I mean, trading a star player for your franchise, you would have to get owner's approval here. So in many ways, a lot of people think Nico Harrison is taking the fall for Patrick Dumont, but does that get to what you just said earlier? Did Dumont, not having a basketball background, did he maybe overestimate how bad that this trade would look for fans?
Yes, I absolutely think that. And, you see the season ticket cancellations that followed and the public backlash. I think
and the sellout records, they had a long-running streak going for the Mavericks fans also.
Yes, I think that this has been very sobering for Patrick Dumont of what sports ownership looks like and what happens. But, people think of the Celtics and the Knicks and the Lakers with the NBA, but the Mavericks low-key have a big fan base. I think people forget that sometimes.
Now, former majority owner Mark Cuban, who's now a minority owner in the franchise, had been critical of the Luka trade, but it seems like reportedly he might be back in the fold in terms of advising the Dumonts on what to do next with the general manager moves. Do we know about what Cuban's going to be doing here?
So here's what we do know. Nico Harrison's final game as GM was in a loss to the Bucks on Monday. Patrick Dumont and Mark Cuban were seen walking off the court together talking, which was not always the case, to your point, since February. And it's been reported by ESPN's Tim McMahon, who's the Mavs guy, that Mark Cuban is floating behind the scenes Dennis Lindsey, who's an incredible executive. He's with the Pistons now, but helped build those Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert Jazz teams. And also is a Texas native. Family is still in Dallas, reportedly.
And also helped construct the roster when they went to the Western Conference Finals.
Yes, was an advisor for Nico. Mark Cuban is reportedly pushing Dennis Lindsey around right now as a name to be considered to replace Nico Harrison. I think that this is kind of a test to see how much juice Mark Cuban has. It's like the Wolf of Wall Street gif of I'm back. We're about to see if he's back in the fold with this. Does Dennis Lindsey become the next GM, President of Basketball Operations, whatever the title you want, for the Mavericks, and Mark Cuban gets his way, and then maybe he's back in the fold and running basketball ops as he wanted to when the team was sold? Or does Patrick Dumont go a different direction? I think people forget, again, how competitive the Mavs consistently were with Mark Cuban as owner, and I think that his voice should carry more weight than it did before in light of all that's happened. But we'll see, right? I mean, no one expected Luka to get traded in the first place, and Mark Cuban didn't see it coming either. So I think that Mark Cuban has a better relationship with Patrick Dumont than he did a few months ago, and that I feel comfortable saying. Is he back fully running the show or has more of a voice or influence than he did before? I think we're about to find out.
We will definitely find out. Alex Schiffer, thank you so very much. Meanwhile, WNBA star Alyssa Thomas is now the second major signing for Project B, the new women's international league, joining former WNBA MVP Nneka Ogwumike, who's also the union president for the WNBA. And with more players expected to join, does this put at risk other leagues like Unrivaled? Let's bring in women's sports reporter Annie Constable. So how big of a threat now is Project B to Unrivaled?
I mean, in the immediate, it looks like a direct threat to Unrivaled because their seasons occupied the same window, which we know is at the end of the WNBA season leading up to training camp and the preseason. And so there's questions to be answered regarding exclusivity. We know that Unrivaled has exclusivity for its players during its 10-week season, which makes sense. You obviously don't want players playing in your league and somewhere else. That's unheard of.
Right.
But what we don't know is what Project B's exclusivity will be. So is there a potential for a player to play with Project B during the November, December, potentially early January month, and then join Unrivaled? Or would it be a strict Project B only? And the other thing to think about right now is that Unrivaled has a number of players signed to multi-year deals, which could limit who is able to commit to playing for Project B. Obviously, we see Alyssa Thomas has committed. She's an Unrivaled player, so that's an indication, okay, she's not signed to a multi-year deal because she's opting to join Project B. So I think it's really a question of what players are committed to multi-year deals and where does exclusivity lie. But I mean, just big picture, like this is a threat. This is definitely going to disrupt the women's basketball ecosystem. It's just a matter of how much.
I mean, obviously, Caitlin Clark has reportedly had multiple offers to join Unrivaled in the past, and she hasn't. But does Project B need to sign a Caitlin Clark or even a Paige Beckers or somebody that's a younger, bigger name to then obviously be taken seriously, given the fact that a lot of these stars, while they're great, they're sort of in the tail end of their career.
Yeah, obviously we know it's proven the value that Caitlin Clark brings to the WNBA and therefore would bring to any other league she joins. The same, in a similar sense, can be said to Paige Beckers in terms of, again, the attention that she's helped bring to the WNBA in her rookie season. And so when you're considering a startup league, of course, getting a player of that caliber matters, especially for further investment. And when you're talking about a media rights deal, all these different factors that are going to come into play to determine the success of the league, that certainly matters. But the question at hand really for players like that is, what's the value for them in joining, right? Because Caitlin's made it clear that she wants to play 5-on-5. That's been one of the reasons linked to why, we have not seen her in Unrivaled yet. 5-on-5 is a priority. And so beyond that, Caitlin, Paige, Asia, Angel, you could go down the list of players who make such a considerable amount of money off the court that they need a bigger reason than even a $2 million salary to say, yes, I'll join this league. Like, what is the benefit for me? And I think this brings us to an even more important question when it comes to the women's basketball landscape, and that, what is the overall goal for women's basketball players? Is it to prioritize one league and then have a proper offseason, as we're seeing Asia's able to do, Caitlin's able to do, Angel's able to do now this season because of their off-court income? Or is women's basketball, is the goal to maintain this year-round state of play? And I think that's what's coming up here, is what is the model? What is the overall goal and the model for women's basketball?
And that's going to be the big question heading into all of this. Annie Costabile, thank you so much. Coming up next, the standoff between YouTube TV and ESPN enters its second week, plus New York Giants star Kayvon Thibodeau joins the show. That's next.
Notre Dame playing very well, in a position to crack the top 12. Now they have to take care of business.
Here's what I want from and again, we're going to go over who we think is actually going to make the playoffs here a little bit later in the show. But understand this, Joe. I don't want any ACC in there. I don't want any Big 12 in there. Just give me the Big 10 and the SEC. And Mike, quite frankly, if you just gave me Ohio State, Indiana, and the rest of the SEC, boom, boom.
Nah.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
It is a sickness in this league. They stink, and they should stink next year. That's it.
But the expectation is to be a 9-8 football team.
So let's shake it. Why is that the expectation? They're garbage. And traded away two of the few good guys they have.
But they're going to get how many draft picks in the first round? 3 next year?
2.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Brissett has been that good. So this is a quarterback that I think is worth acquiring, but especially in Superflex leagues. If somebody's already got QBs passed it by and Brissett's just collecting dust on somebody's bench, go out there, get him, because I think the next 4 weeks, some of the matchups too, he gets Jacksonville, he gets San Francisco, he gets Tampa. Those are going to be some higher scoring games potentially. Good news for fantasy managers who are trying to get Jacoby Brissett.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Today's prop was 15, right? And he's at 44. If you altered him to 20 or 25 plus, those are some big numbers. Like 15.5, like Jack Besh this morning was 11.5, and his number got bet up to 15.5. Tyler Lockett was 16.5 and bet down to 15.5. If you just took a shot like 15 to 25 is nothing. And next week, his number's not going to be 15.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Front Office Sports Today. I'm Baker Machado, and this podcast is brought to you by Invesco QQQ. Now, in football, changing the game begins with rethinking it, like rethinking how players work on their game. And with wearable tech, advanced analytics, AI, and more, the same innovative thinking that changes the game could also change your portfolio. Invesco QQQ gives you access to the innovators who are rethinking the world. Let's rethink possibility. Well, it's been 2 lost weekends of ESPN for YouTube TV's 10 million subscribers. That is, the platform is now issuing a $20 credit to those affected. However, a spokesperson for YouTube TV is saying that the sticking point in the negotiations is not the price of ESPN, it's ABC. So let's bring in front office sports reporter Eric Fisher. So Eric, why is ABC the sticking point here?
Well, retrans of broadcast networks is always a complicated issue, but I think it's a little bit of a red herring where because Disney is such a diverse programmer, like any of these deals, it's just one facet of many things. We've talked about a whole bunch of things, whether it be ESPN, the presence of Hulu in this situation. I think for YouTube to sort of call out one particular thing probably does a disservice to the overarching complex nature of this negotiation.
Given the fact that ESPN, let's just say in Monday Night Football's case, is able to simulcast that game on ABC, are they able to get more more fees and all of that stuff from places like YouTube TV because of that?
Maybe a little bit, but it's important to note that there's been a bunch of simulcasting of major events, not just football, but many ESPN events on ABC. That's been a fundamental component of the entire Disney sports strategy for some time. Again, these issues are getting heightened now because we're in the midst of a carriage dispute, but this is a multi-year Disney strategy that they've been pursuing.
It seems like both sides are really dug in here, just even sort of the comments that they're both sort of lobbing at each other right now. How long do you think this standoff could go? Is this going to be something that's going to be a prolonged sort of fight here?
Yeah, this is increasingly looking like something this could be months and months and months. I've done a lot of these over the years. This one appears to be one of the more dug-in ones that I can certainly recall, and just not just the invective, but how they just seem to be talking way past each other, that it wouldn't necessarily surprise me if we go well past the holidays on this one.
And is it because it's Google, a tech company, rather than, say, a Charter or a DirecTV that's a traditional carriage provider? Is that what maybe also is changing the dynamic here?
A little bit, that there are other sort of non-traditional carriers that Disney has and other programmers have to deal with, certainly one not as large as this. Again, as we've discussed, that YouTube TV is now the number 4 carrier and only trail 3 very traditional ones in the market here. So, I think those market dynamics all sort of feed into this.
Is there also a risk here for ESPN? Because obviously they want a lot of people to subscribe to the standalone app here. Infuriating fans so much that then they realize, I don't need ESPN. I realize now I don't need to watch Stephen A. Smith and Pat McAfee, even though I just want to watch all these games. Is there maybe a risk here for ESPN that they turn off potential viewers?
Yeah, well, part of the issue here is that there is a personalization with ESPN that you can sort of point to, that you know the letters, you know the brand, you know the personalities, whereas YouTube TV, from a brand and sort of personality standpoint, it's much more faceless. Like, who do you sort of point your ire towards? But if you see a Mike Greenberg ad or a Stephen A. Smith ad or whoever, I don't mean to pick on them specifically, but a number of their key on-air personalities have been out there stumping on this issue. So it just personalizes that, in a negative way. I think that particular part is backfired for ESPN, that it sort of gives a particular person to point your anger towards.
True. Very good point. Eric Fisher, what a story this is. Thank you so much. And meanwhile, I had the chance to talk to New York Giants defensive star Kayvon Thibodeau about the team's struggles and his big charity that he's promoting here in the next couple of weeks. Take a look. And welcome back, everyone, to Front Office Sports Today. I'm Baker Machado here in New York City. And coming up during weeks 13 and 14 of the NFL season, players through My Cause, My Cleats will wear customized cleats honoring causes that they support, all with the option to donate those cleats to NFL auction for you to buy at home, and then all those proceeds would then go to those players' charities. Now, one of those players partaking is New York Giants defensive star Kayvon Thibodeau, who joins us now. Kayvon, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us. So tell us a little bit about the charity that you've chosen this year.
Well, I've chosen my foundation, which is the Dream Foundation. I started it back when I was in college and NIL kind of first took off. And the Dream Foundation is a foundation that is focused on youth development, financial literacy, and different life skills and enrichment. DREAM is an acronym. It stands for Journey to Readiness and Enrichment through Academic Mentorship. So we basically just focus on the future, and we focus on helping kids get resources with education, and we use sports as kind of the carrot on the stick to keep the kids focused.
Yeah, and I know this is your specific charity that you created. Mm-hmm. Why did you create this? What was sort of the impetus behind it?
For me, I think, kind of growing up in the inner city, I was afforded a lot of resources, and I was able to see kind of, the different scales of life and understand that I was able to, succeed because of the resources I was afforded. And I kind of wanted to just be, a pillar back home in my community and in New York with helping kids kind of get those resources.
I love that. And as I mentioned earlier, everybody sort of gets to design their own cleats for this amazing occasion. Tell us what it's like to sort of design the cleats and what sort of image do you have in mind for what they're going to look like here soon?
With the cleats, I think, it's tough because obviously you want to highlight the team and the team that I play on and use those colors, but then also highlight my foundation. So big shout out to Cato, the designer. I mean, he not only kind of took my input, but, still wanted to make it about the foundation. So I think it's going to come out dope.
I love that. And you've done this charity before. You've done this cause before. What is it about this cause that so many players partake in this every single year?
Well, it's an opportunity to, one, use your platform to shed light about, the different causes that, us as athletes support. And then two, to get the support from the people who support us. People kind of they live and breathe football. So having them also support, the foundations and the people that we care about is special.
Obviously, Kayvon, you've been playing really tremendous so far this season. The season obviously hasn't gone the way I think a lot of Giants fans would want it to go. But how do you sort of stay motivated when maybe the season's struggling a little bit?
Well, we got a job to do. I asked for this opportunity, and I can't be ungrateful now that it's here and, things may not be going my way. So I got to continue to just kind of focus on getting better and taking it week by week.
And obviously, I said you've been having a great season so far. Abdul Carter has been a great addition for you guys over on the defensive side. Have you approached this season differently? Is that why we're seeing your stats so much, so different from the years past?
No, I don't think my stats are necessarily different. I think I'm playing better ball, and I would say that, it's maturity, it's growth. I think every player kind of, as you kind of, play in this league, you can continue to get better and evolve.
All right. Well, congratulations, Kayvon, on all your success in the season ahead. And again, My Cause, My Cleats. Kayvon is working with the Dream Foundation. Kayvon, thank you so much for joining us.
We now have to figure out if they will be in the playoffs. They're the Super Bowl favorite and have shorter odds to miss the postseason as you and I sit here right now.
Right, but let me ask you this. Do you feel after this 5-4 record, 9 weeks, 10 weeks of the regular season, that their defense is as dominant as it was last year?
But the offense is better.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Fly Pelican, more like grounded Pelican. The Pelicans are 0-6 to start the season. Their main guys aren't their main guys. And it comes to a point where, what do you do if you are Joe Dumars and the leadership of New Orleans?
Pro Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
You want to throw $12, $13 million at Kiffin? That's always a possibility. Summerall, they lost the other night to, in that matchup to UTSA. Or do you go back to potentially the mad scientist and Nick Saban, give him, complete control of the athletic department and see if he can turn it around? We'll see. But whatever they go, they're going to need a coach to hit the ground running.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
His daughter, she's on the OF.
Okay.
She's on the OF.
Is that right?
Yeah, she's on the OF.
So he's got
now.
an OnlyFans daughter and a little son
who says he can beat Curry and LeBron.
And he's coaching a team that was down 17 to
Keep
nothing.
that dude away from polite society.
Okay, by the way, I'm with you. I didn't know any of that is.
Numa's pops gotta go.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back, everyone, to Front Office Sports. Today, I'm Baker Machado. Let's get you caught up on some of the other stories we're following for you over at the FOS Water Cooler. And let's bring in from the control room. He's back, everyone.
I'm back.
Our senior producer, John Shames, who's going to chat with me on some of these stories. Hi, John.
Hey, Baker. How are you, man? How was yesterday?
It was great. Dan Roberts, great in studio, but of course, we always miss you in the control room. The control room has never been sadder without you.
Well, I'm happy to be here.
All right, let's get to some of the stories, John. It's finally happened. We've talked about this for a long time. The NBA announced their changes for the All-Star Game in Los Angeles this February with a new U.S. versus the world format. This will feature 2 U.S. teams and 1 international squad, each consisting of 8 men on the roster. Now, NBC will air the All-Star Game this year. That is, the Winter Olympics are going on. And also, this is coming on the heels of Team USA's hockey games. But my big thing here, Shames, there's more than 8 international players that should be making this roster.
Yeah, totally. And also, it's going to be weird because now there's 3 teams, right? So it's still going to be 24 players, but it's 3 teams. It's a round-robin format. I like the NBA switching it up, but it does seem like there might be some logistical, factors here at play. If it does not shake out where you have 8, where you have a team of 8 American players, 8 American players, and 8 international players, Adam Silver will name essentially backups to help fill out the roster. So it's going to be interesting to see what it looks like. I just hope players play hard. That's really what's going to be the difference of if this is a success or not.
And they're hoping because the Winter Olympics happening, and you obviously have Team USA in hockey and all the success that the 4 Nations tournament happened, that maybe this sort of creates some sort of national intrigue that we will take it seriously. All right, we've been talking a lot about the gambling situation here in the United States, but another large betting scandal is now hitting the international soccer scene. This is over 1,000 Turkish soccer players and 149 referees have now been suspended by the Turkish Football Federation. This is part of a betting investigation over there. 27 of those players play in the top league in the country. Now, matches in the 3rd and 4th divisions of the Turkish Football Federation have been postponed for the next 2 weeks, although Shames games in the country's top 2 divisions still will continue. But my God, 1,000 players. That's so systemic.
Yeah, and I think I was reading there was around 30 from like the top league that were suspended. So, you always, as we've been covering these gambling cases and these scandals, it always feels like it's kind of the mid-tier or low-tier guys who are at risk. Very concerning to see that some top-level guys, including guys who are in the Premier League, were involved in this. And maybe more concerning, Baker, over 340 refs of the 500 plus in the Turkish soccer system all have gambling accounts. And it's interesting, like Turkey, gambling is legal. It's highly regulated. So I guess if this was happening, it's good that they got caught. But yeah, I mean, we're talking here about a couple of guys here and there. Imagine 1,100 players in one system, being suspended. Insane.
Right, and the argument that they're saying is, look, most of these players, if not a large majority of them, are in the lower leagues. So obviously it's not as huge with a ton being in the top leagues. But either way, 1 is more than enough. So the fact that you have 30 already on the top club. And by the way, one of the people that got investigated is the chairman of one of these top flight clubs. So
starts at the top.
All right, let's move to North Carolina. Coach Bill Belichick saying he's focused on the Tar Heels' next game against Wake Forest. This is questions swirl if the former NFL head coach is interested in the newly opened New York Giants job. Belichick told reporters, quote, "I've been asked about it from time to time. I've been down this road before, but I'm focused on Wake Forest. That's it." Now, of course, Belichick won 2 Super Bowls with the Giants as defensive coordinator under Bill Parcells in 1986 and 1990. But by the way, the Tar Heels won 2 in a row, so crazy how much everything has now changed, and now all of a sudden he's a hot commodity now again.
Yeah, this is this is not like a story to me. Like I love that ESPN did a write-up on it. I love that a reporter asked about it. You kind of have to. Of course, the guy's not going to say, yeah, I could be interested, right? Like he's already said a few times this season he's committed to kind of bringing this team to success. And yeah, like you said, they're kind of riding some good momentum. Whereas the Giants right now, not looking super fun to be a part of that organization at the moment.
And by the way, would the Giants even want him? Because we know the last few years that he had in New England, the Patriots were worse than the Giants.
Here's another variable. I was seeing that Tom Coughlin could come back to the Giants. Bill Belichick's, counterpart in those 2 Super Bowl losses on the Giants side. So, kind of a Sophie's choice, I guess.
All right, James, what are we watching tonight on the tube?
We've got a couple of games, Baker. So the one that's got my eye tonight is the Lakers versus the Thunder.
Yes,
that's
indeed.
tonight on ESPN, 9:30 p.m. Rough start, but at least it's a little earlier than 10:30 for a West Coast game. Devils at Blackhawks over in the NHL. That's at 9:30. That's going to be on TNT. And then the early game, 7 p.m. Magic at Knicks. That should be good too. Magic maybe not as good as we would have hoped this year so far, but the Knicks are a wagon right now. So an intriguing team in the East.
Absolutely, and I'm totally with you. That Thunder-Lakers game going to be great. You have the number 1 versus number 3 seeds right now in the Western Conference. Shames, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you at home for watching. We'll be back with you for more Front Office Sports Today tomorrow.